My name is Andrea Stanovici, and I am a solutions architect here at PM Square. Today, I will be going over the best way to estimate the cost of running your workloads on Amazon Web Services public cloud. Many companies are looking to migrate to the cloud due to the numerous benefits such as scalability, reliability, resiliency, and enhanced security, just to name a few. Some of these companies still do have hesitations about the recurring costs associated with running the workloads in the cloud. The best way to determine if your organization can financially benefit from migrating to the cloud would be to compare the existing costs of running your application on-premise and use the Amazon Web Services pricing calculator to determine the monthly cost of running the same applications in the cloud. There are two primary types of expenses that must be considered when calculating the total cost to run the application on-premise: direct and indirect costs. Direct costs are much easier to identify. They include physical servers, spare parts, materials, software, storage, licenses, security tools, and so forth. Indirect costs, on the other hand, are a bit more difficult to identify, and they are very often overlooked. A few of these examples include the real estate of the storage space used for the servers, tools used for temperature control, staff salaries, the cost of setup, configuration, and ongoing upgrades, the cost of downtime, depreciation of the hardware and software, and time spent on disaster recovery. It's critical that companies evaluate both direct and indirect costs associated with hosting their own IT infrastructure to calculate the total cost of ownership. Once the TCO of the on-premise environment is identified, we can move on to the next step, which includes calculating the cost of running the application in the cloud. I mentioned earlier one helpful tool that can help you create an estimate, and that is the AWS pricing calculator. To access the pricing calculator, you can go to calculator.aws and then select Create Estimate. The next page will show a number of services that can be configured to add to the overall estimate. The specific service that I'll be looking for is EC2, which stands for Elastic Compute Cloud. These are virtual servers in the cloud. Once you get to the next page, you can add a description that's optional. Select a specific region where you would like your resources deployed. There are two options for estimates. A quick estimate can be used when you want a rapid cost calculation based on minimum requirements, and it does not provide a detailed breakdown. An advanced estimate contains plenty of details, and it accounts for data transfer costs, additional storage options, and other instance requirements. If you go down to the next section, you can select a specific operating system. I will select Advanced Estimate for the purpose of this demonstration. So I will select a Windows server for the operating system. For the workload, I will select a daily spike in traffic, assuming that Monday through Friday there's a consistent peak of 8 hours. And during the peak, I would like 2 virtual servers active. However, during downtime, only 1. That is the minimum. So that's the baseline versus the peak, which is when you're receiving the most traffic. If you want to add anticipated traffic for a specific number of days, you can just add another pattern. However, I will not do that for the following days. If you go further down, based on your usage pattern, you do get an instance that is recommended right off the bat from AWS, which would be a T2 Nano. I will switch to a different instance type. However, you can either go with that recommendation or do a little bit of research to figure out the best instance type for your application requirements. I will select a T3A medium, and here you can see all of the specs, the memory, CPUs, network performance, storage, the on-demand cost, and so on. For the next section, you can select a specific pricing model for those instances. If you're doing testing and it's a very temporary instance or a temporary resource, the recommended plan is on demand because those you don't have to reserve. You can just spin up a server, use it, and terminate it when you're done. However, if you can predict your usage patterns and you would like to take advantage of larger discounts and are willing to commit to 1 or 3 years, then you can select one of the other plans. Even if you are not sure, the nice aspect of this option is that you're able to see the price that you would get charged per month. So if you're going with the EC2 Instant Savings plans, you can see if you want to reserve them for 1 year without paying anything up front, this would be your monthly cost. If you wanted to go strictly with on demand, then you can just see your calculation here, which would be $38. If you wanted to go with the compute savings plan, then again for 1 year, none up front. However, you can change these, and as you see the price changes, the longer the reservation term, the lower the price. And you can pay partial, none up front, or all up front. It's just a matter of preference. There are also all reserved instances, which same options, the year, the upfront, and you can see the cost breakdown. However, I will stick to on demand just for the purpose of this demonstration. For the next section, this is elastic block storage. So this is just additional storage for each instance. I will stick with 30 gigs for each instance with a snapshot twice daily. You can again hit the show calculations, and this just really breaks down the price of each component, the snapshots, the gigs, the hours, everything that goes into this final price for this specific aspect. So for the additional elastic block storage, that would be roughly $850 a month. The next section talks about data transfer. And for inbound transfer using the internet, it's free, so we don't even need to enter an amount here. However, inter-region, this is data transfer between availability zones or VPC peering connections. This section is important because there are certain measures that can be taken to really lower data costs, such as deploying AWS resources within the same VPC and the same availability zone. That way, the different services that are utilized will be communicating over the same private network and will not incur the same data transfer costs. Additionally, you can use VPC endpoints for different VPCs, which will also significantly lower data transfer costs. So although I am going through this data transfer section, it's important to note that there are certain measures that can be taken to lower data transfer costs when using private network. So here we can set it to, let's do 500 gigs per month. Outbound data transfer, we can do 1 TB, and here you can see the various calculations. That takes us to roughly $102 per month. And this takes you to your overall EC2 estimate. So you can see the cost of on-demand instances, which are the most expensive instances because you're not committing to anything. So this is strictly pay-as-you-go. Just for using the instances, that would be almost $39. The additional storage, $854. Data transfer, $102.16. You can then hit add to my estimate, which adds it to your overall estimate. And from here, you can see this is your estimate dashboard. You can see the upfront costs, nothing. The monthly cost at this point is $149, and it also calculates what the entire year cost would be, 12 months, which is right here. You can add an additional service. The next service I will include will be RDS. That stands for Relational Database Service. It's a managed database service. I will select the RDS for SQL Server, hit Configure, optionally add a description at the top. I am sticking to the US East North Virginia region. Only one node. It defaults to this specific instance type. However, you can select a different instance type. I will select a smaller instance. Utilization, you can display that in a variety of ways. I will stick to hours a day. We can do 18 hours a day. The pricing model is only on demand. For deployment option, you can select either single AZ or multi-AZ. With single AZ, it means that your RDS instance would be deployed in a single availability zone. It's best practice to deploy the RDS instance in multi-AZ. That way, if something does happen to one of the availability zones, you will still continue to get access to your database. So multi-AZ is just a great option for redundancy. I will select that. The license is already included, and for the database edition, I will stick to standard. The calculations are displayed below. For storage, I will stick to 100 gigs. With RDS, you can continue adding storage on the fly. So it's best to start with the lower amount, and you can increase amount as is needed. Calculations there. I will not be adding backup storage. So I can see my total estimate, and I can hit add to the running estimate. So far we have our virtual servers, we have our managed SQL server setup. I will add one more additional service, S3, that is simple storage service. It is just additional storage. You can add a description at the top, select the region, select the specific type. I will select S3 standard. And for S3 standard, we can say, let's do 2 terabytes per month. I will say 100,000 requests. We will not be using S3 select. You can also, as I mentioned before, break down the calculations and see exactly how much you would be charged for 2 terabytes and the 100,000. Get, select, and other requests. You can do data transfer. If it's coming from the internet or all other regions, it will be free, so we don't need to enter an amount for the outbound. If we are transferring to a different region, however, we already talked about keeping services within the same region to lower costs. We can say, let's do 200 gigs per month from a different region. And there you have your total monthly cost. Add that to the estimate. And so now in our estimate, we have 3 different services: the virtual servers, the managed database, and the additional object storage. And you can see the monthly costs, which would be $1,116.70. Here you can also see the total 12-month cost. And this just provides a general overview of the total costs associated with each service. More services can be added. You can also add support because AWS does have different support plans. However, once you get this recurring monthly cost or even the 12 months cost, it can be much easier to compare these costs with the cost of running the same application on premise using the same number of servers. And only once you have both of those costs can you make a much more accurate decision or estimate about the difference in pricing and how much you would save while running the application on the cloud itself. Once you have finished adding in all of your services for your estimate, you can export the file either in the form of a CSV or a PDF in case you'd like to have a local copy. If you want to share the copy with others, you will initially have a pop-up screen that You must select accept on. All that it does is tell you that your information is going to be saved on a AWS public server. Then you will have a public link that you can copy, share with anyone. You can continue to edit those specific estimates in case you want to add additional capacity, additional servers, whatever is needed. And the nice thing about this user interface is underneath config summary, you can find a little summary of each of the configurations that you set up, each of the options that were selected to produce the exact price. But that takes you through the pricing calculator. If you need any additional guidance or support in regards to the pricing calculator or the most efficient architecture, feel free to reach out to us here at PM Square and we will be more than happy to assist you. Thanks for watching.